Well, hey, and welcome everybody. I'm so excited to be here with you today with my husband, Mike Amos, and this is our Team Prosperity September 30th, 2020 Wednesday meeting. And I appreciate everybody that's here today, as well as all the people that take the time to listen to the recording. I've got a few things that I wanted to go over, and I know Mike's got a great presentation for us. So let me go ahead and pull mine up here. And it is just such an exciting time right now, September 30th, 2020. Really excited to be here with everybody today. And what I wanted to talk about was just a few things that have helped me throughout the week and a few things that have come up. And then the ones that know me well know that I'm always working on time management. This was one of the posts that I had put out. This has some really good kind of little time management hints. I'm not going to go through and read them all, but, here they are, and it's also on, all my social medias. What I've really noticed this week is that no one wants to get left behind in business. So a little bit of healthy competition is great. And all of our progress really comes from, getting on the phone and making phone calls. And I know that Mike is going to talk a lot about that today. And we're constantly growing. We're constantly getting better. That's mandatory, right? So that's really important. Another thing that I learned and I thought was really cool is a lot of professionals that you're going to talk to are interested in being full-service professionals, full-service realtors, full-service insurance agents. Basically, they just offer a lot of different solutions, a lot of different services. So this is definitely something that we can help individuals with, and it's definitely something that professionals are interested in, becoming a full-service professional. So, and it's really been a great week. Just want to remind you all, put positive things out there in the universe, like Ralph Waldo Emerson said, once you make a decision, the universe conspires to make it happen. So, let's make it happen. You're going to be amazed at what you can attract after you start believing that you deserve it and that you can do it. So I love this. I love that what Michael Eisbrenner said, and we talked about this week. Ask for what you want. He asked, did you decide when you're going to get started? And I love this. I love this, Michael. So I thought this was great. I think that a lot of us know so much that we just want to talk about what we know. That's not enough. You have to ask for what you want. And this week I've really been kind of working on a three-step approach to getting people to an end result. So my first step is the intro call, sending the info. And what I tell them is, I'm going to follow up with you about this time tomorrow. And for those that know me, time management again, if I say 5 o'clock, sometimes I'm late. So if I tell them about this time, that gives me a nice little 15-minute window, 30-minute window. And usually they're like, yeah, okay, And then that second call, what did you like best? If I don't hear that they're super enthusiastic, I'm going to ask them, on a scale of 1 to 10, how interested are you, right? If I get a 7 or an 8 or a 6, I'm going to send additional information, but I'm going to tell them, I'm going to send you more information so you can make a decision. And then I'll call you back about this time tomorrow for a decision. Obviously, if they're like a 9 or a 10, we're going to go to the next step of the interview or the sign-up process. But if I do make that third call, it's basically going to be very short. Are you going to sign up, or are you going to see what the client sees? And if they don't want to do either, they're going to tell me, no, I don't want to do either one of those things. So this has kind of helped me, my own little three-step approach. And I've gotten some resolutions, and I've gotten some maybes onto, look at their situation, look at their numbers. And so this is working for me, and it might work for you. So one thing I'm trying to learn, stop trying to be liked by everyone, right? We don't even like all those people. So, and the one thing I already have learned is no one succeeds alone. So building a team is important, but even if you don't build a team, just leaning on other people, delegating, knowing that you can't be everything to everybody and you can't be great at everything, You know, that's something that I've learned, and I'm learning all the time. And this is going to be my last slide. It's kind of a long one, so I kind of circled the main point is just step up. But it's, you know, it's about the journey too, not just getting there and having those end results. So anyways, I'm going to bring up Mike. I'm super excited to see his presentation. Give me just 1 second. Thanks.
All right, everybody, it's go time for your business. So I hope you guys are ready to really finish out this year pretty strong. Like we've always talked about over the past several weeks, whatever you do now has an immediate impact on your business. But while everybody else is resetting in early 2021 to get going, you'll springboard and you'll be way past where they are. So immediate impacts as well as follow-through impacts. So this is the sweet spot of the year, regardless of how terrible or disruptive or chaotic this year has been. This is still the sweet spot. You need to go after it. One of the things that I try to do, and I think that we all need to do, is break up the monotony of the build-out process. No matter what you've got going on, you need to do things with energy, intensity, and aggressiveness over short spans. So imagine if like a boxing match, a 10-round boxing match had no rounds, had no breaks. I mean, it would be to the point these guys would be exhausted and they wouldn't, you know, really understand where they stood in the bout. So what you need to understand is go at your business like that. Go out rounds. You're not going to win every round of the day, but if you win a majority of those, then you're going to win for the match in the day. Also, remember, guys, this isn't an old school traditional thing. We're out there meeting people in suits and, you know, all cleaned up, haircuts, all of this stuff that the traditional industry salesperson, marketer, whatever it is that we are, needs to be transferred. And it needs to be transferred in order. We still have to make the good impression, but it's about what you say, how you say it, understanding your business assets, what exactly you guys are doing, command of simple technology, three-way calls, you know, screen shares, and then organization of the presentation. Are you together with the information that you're conveying to the other side? Because if you're not, you're going to lose talent, because talent wants to be around talent. They want to be, you know, around people that can help them get to their goals. If they feel like the person on the other end of the phone or on the other part of that screen share is not in a position to lead them to where they want to go, they're not coming in. That's where you need to come off as an educator. Whether you're working with clients, whether you're working with partners, you're an educator. And you're educating people into control, into peace of mind, into things, whether it's on the partner or the client side, that's going to help them tremendously. So as an educator, the effectiveness of what you do comes from a few things, 4 things total. Your commitment to what you're actually doing, your dedication, your excellence, and your compassion. Remember, when you're out there, if you view yourself as an educator instead of a recruiter, instead of a salesperson, it becomes easier to get the message across in a way that makes sense to the other people. You guys have to learn how to ask questions. And the example that we use is, imagine if we showed up at the doctor's office and the doctor didn't ask any questions at all. He just started writing stuff down, putting stuff in our file. You know, it would seem, you know, like it didn't make sense. Like, what reality am I in? Same thing with us, guys. If a doctor asks you no questions, that's problematic. Same thing with here. We have to ask people questions. Did you know? Did you realize? Do you understand? Because you have to make sure that you guys are on the same page. If you're not on the same page with the other party, they're not going to raise their hand and ask questions if they don't feel comfortable, if you're not leading them to ask those questions. This is what I live by, guys. I found this a long time ago, and I continue to bring this up because if you guys can master this, it does an incredible amount for the partner and the client side of the business. If you want somebody to take an action step, that's at the top of the pyramid. You have to understand that unless you get to the top, you don't start here. So you have to build rapport. People have to feel comfortable with you in order to establish some trust and credibility so that they will talk to you. Remember, all we're trying to do is ask questions and get information. People will open up if you've done your job, building some rapport, establishing some trust and credibility. The information will come. That's going to uncover some type of a problem that you insert yourself in to be able to help with a solution. And then if the solution is there, then we tell them to take the action step. So this right here masters the flow of your pipeline, and it will seriously start to convert on a high level if you understand the steps. If you're skipping steps, then you're going to see breaks in the pipeline and breaks in conversions. Also, there's numerous ways that you guys can automate, the follow-ups and the reminders for your appointments. If you're not using automation, you're going to have to do it manually, but you have to do it because a no-show is different from a cancel, and a cancel is different from a reschedule. So you want to push the number of no-shows down to a minimal amount and then push up those that would have been a no-show to a cancel or a reschedule. Once again, if it can be automated, why not do it? Because if it's left up to us on a manual trigger, a lot of times that's not going to happen. And remember, when you're out there, guys, you're looking for people who are looking for you. I know it's kind of cliche, but we're not here to convince anybody of anything. Lots of people out there, get this and want to be a part of this. That's all you're looking for. You're not rebuttaling, convincing, explaining, trying to prove your worth to somebody. If you're doing that on a daily basis, then that is not the right approach. That's a grind. You're going to start to hate communicating with people because you constantly feel like you're defending yourself. There are tons of great people out there. We found some, many more to come. You guys are not territorial restricted. You can go out there and open conversations in whatever state you want, but just understand that as you're building this, you're building distribution channels that could build out further. So it doesn't matter where they come from. We only look for the person, not the geographic location, but we're looking for the right fit in our organization. And you're going to find those people by getting around and making yourself uncomfortable, kind of reaching out to higher level prospects. That's never going to happen inside the comfort zone. It's going to happen outside the comfort zone. And that's where all the growth is going to come from, not only for your business in terms of partner, client, revenue, and income, but also your own personal growth. If you stay inside a box your whole life, there's going to be little to no growth. So you're going to find good people by stepping outside your comfort zone and going out there and talking to people that may even intimidate you a little bit. Remember, you are looking for people that are either making the bridge over to business ownership and investor, or they're already on there and they're looking to increase what they're already doing on that side. This is really my first filter. When I'm talking to people, where would I put them? And if I've got them on the left-hand side, is it somebody that wants to make the jump, or do they want to stay here? Are they comfortable as the employee? Are they comfortable as the self-employed owning a job? It's what makes the world go round. We're all not wired the same, but you need to understand who you're talking to, and this can be a great first filter because once you start talking to the right people with the right message, pipeline builds and conversions build. Don't waste your time trying to explain to these people why they're on the wrong side. For a lot of us, at this point in the year, we need to have an intervention because a lot of us, have let the year kind of drag us down, which is understandable. But now we have to get ourselves together, and we have to realize there's a lot of great tools out there that we water, social media, some other things that we do. But when you get down to what's going to build your business immediately with the most impact, pick up the phone. It's the thing that we don't want to do. So when you're analyzing yourself right now through this year, I always like to step outside. If I was a company or if I was a stock, how would outside investors view my performance lately? Am I on a downtrend? Am I kind of flatlined? Or am I building momentum and I'm on an upline? This will help you. So always step outside yourself. How am I doing? How's my team doing? If we're flatlining or if we're in a downtrend, we need to kind of check ourselves and figure out what's going on and understand that, time's going to pass. And if we want to be somewhere in 3 to 5 years, we have to make that happen. We always talk about this is not a thing where we're just waiting around, patient. We're persistent, knowing that it's not going to happen overnight. We have to go out there and make it happen because in 5 years, you don't want to be looking back and say, oh, I had that at that moment, but I let it slip. And look where this person is. Look where this person is. Look where this person is. I could have been there, but I just didn't do the necessary things to get there. Don't let that fear of failure hold you back. When you look at something, you have to inverse your mindset. When you're making calls to people, most of the time is, oh, I don't want to do this. So, what are they going to say? On the other hand, if you start looking at reaching out to people, from a growth mindset, that next person on that next call could build, multiple legs, a multi-million-dollar distribution for you. Now, they're not everywhere, and you have to get through a lot of people to find those. But if you're not going through the people on the front end, you're never going to find those. So change those bad habits and start to take a new way. And everything that you do, majority of that should be on income-producing activities. If you're posting a meme, making an engagement on social media, that's great. But remember, income-producing activities, because we can work really hard, we can put out a bunch of content, but if we have no money coming in the front door, we're going to wither away and die, because if we're not growing, we're contracting. And if we contract too much, we're just going to be non-existent. That's why you got to focus on a growth mindset and look at those things that we don't want to do on a daily basis in a new light. You have to look at it instead of a chore or a job. You have to look at it as an opportunity to grow your business, because at the end of the day, all you have to do in the beginning for our business is open conversations that funnel down to people watching videos. That's it. And so when you understand that, the most contacts equals the most videos, equals the most follow-ups, equals the most outcomes. Remember, we don't have a long script where if somebody's not interested, we just keep rebuttaling them and whittling down to the point they give up. This is not something we're getting a credit card over the phone charging something, some type of a product. You're building long-term client and partner relationships, but that starts with everything that starts with opening a conversation, getting people interested enough to where they watch videos. Pretty easy job if you think about it on the front end in terms of marketing. And then on the follow-up, you just have to follow up to confirm they watch the videos. If you start dump trucking everything that you know about your business, about the products, about the services, you're going to lose people. Remember, no one cares about your business until your business is something that can help them. How is this going to help the other person on the other line, on the other side of the screen share? Once you start putting yourself in those people's shoes and thinking, how can I help them? You're no longer selling, you're no longer recruiting, you're offering solutions to problems that these people have. Dump trucking, that's just going to paralyze the other side. None of us want to call. I don't know too many people that like to call, but it's a necessary part of your job description. If you refuse to pick up the phone and you refuse to reach out to people and then you refuse to follow up, well, your business is going to refuse to build. So when we look at this, overcoming fear on the phone, number one is just take some action. Just pick up the phone, start dialing. Your first number of calls are not going to be good. That's okay. Expect them to be terrible. You're getting the rocks out of your mouth. You're getting used to people picking up the phone. Sometimes, even in the middle of the day, we don't feel like calling. Sometimes it's weird, but our mind starts to hope that this person doesn't pick up the phone. That's a crazy thing to think of, because if you're trying to build your business, you need people to talk to. That's how your brain tricks you. So it's not going to go away 100%, but just making some calls. And if you've made 0 calls, you're not going to go out there and make 100 in a day. You've got to set a realistic expectation and build off of that. It's also going to make you feel good about yourself when you start accomplishing small goals, building self-confidence, and that comes out when you start to talk to other people. Another thing that you can do to overcome the fear of phone is duplication. And that's just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And we've been talking about this. Rich people don't get rich from stock market investments. They get rich from being entrepreneurs, having a business, doing something extremely well, repetitive, over and over and over again. So it's super important that you do that for yourself with a proven, good script, because it's not about you only. Once you've able to master this, you can now start to teach other people. And if you're doing the same thing and everybody's doing the same thing, that's how distribution gets built. Cold calling is a skill. It's a skill like everything else. Success is actually a skill too. We can work on all of these things, but any skill, you're not just going to show up to any type of new sport or new hobby or anything that you're trying to do and be a master of it. Whether you're a natural or a novice, you can always improve what you do. So how do you sharpen your skills and set more appointments? You have to realize there's going to be kind of like a timeline where you go from a weak person on the phone to a strong person on the phone. And by the time you made this transition over the strong side, you're actually able to help other people because you've been in the trenches. You trailblazed it. You know exactly what's going on, and you can preemptively help them overcome challenges that you had before they even know they're there. Remember, just like athletes, musicians, surgeons, other professionals, sales reps, recruiters, we all get better with practice. We keep swinging at the ball. Send some info. I'll get back to you. What's this regarding? How much does this cost? I'm happy with the way things are. We don't have the budget. No thanks, not interested. All of those are swings. You're going to go out there and hit 100 golf balls versus 1,000. Obviously, you understand that if you hit 1,000 golf balls, you're going to overcome the skill of somebody only hitting 100. So all of these are just swings. And if you take enough swings during the day, you're going to get better at what you do, and you're going to get better at the outcomes that you're producing. You need to understand that you need to be able to do two things in the marketplace. Number one is overcome some initial resistance, and then through the sales process, there's going to be some continued resistance, and you need to be able to answer tough questions. So the key tips around this is you've got to be tough, but you've also got to be fair and realistic. There's a difference between being tough and direct versus coming out in a way that's the other side finds off-putting. You have to ask yourself, as the prospect, what's in it for me? That's all they care about. And so if you're going out talking about technology, products, systems, all this stuff, and you haven't gotten that out of the way, what's in it for the prospect, you've lost them. And no business jargon. In financial services and everything we do, there's a lot of terms. I was talking to somebody who was a licensed rep, a licensed agent the other day, and she was asking me questions. And at the end, she said, everything you said just sounds like total gibberish. So if the person who's licensed is not understanding what you're saying, how is somebody that is not in this industry going to understand? You're going to lose people. So you need to talk to somebody's level. You need to talk in a clear, concise, articulate way, but not be too wordy, and break it down in an elementary, kindergarten way so people can not only understand and digest, but they'll be able to ask questions. I know it's kind of hard, and if you guys are in the sales part of the business, then when you're looking at people's finances, a lot of times there can be nothing good going on. You got to find ways to have positive reinforcement. That's going to lead to behavior change more than negative criticism. So if somebody's giving you their finances and everything looks terrible, you got to find ways in there to not only provide some constructive criticism on how to improve, but find some things they're doing well and congratulate them or say, hey, nice job on doing this. Remember, people don't want to get just beat over the head with a stick continuously. Pat them on the head as well a couple of times. The initial resistance, this is the obstacle course that you got to maneuver through. You got to pivot to your prospect. You got to answer your prospect's questions directly and succinctly, and then move the focus to the prospect. Remember, the focus is not on the client, service, product. It's on who you're talking to right then and there and what's in it for them. And then don't answer unasked questions. A lot of us, including me, start to go into this, and next thing you know, you're just rambling on the phone. Avoid providing info unless you're prompted. So info about nothing else unless it's directly asked, and then ask clarifying questions. Determine what your prospect's questions reflect genuine concerns or if they're just silence fillers. You want to make sure that the other side is coming back and asking questions for the point of learning information that leads to a buying decision. And then you have to ask the probing questions. You have to encourage your prospect to talk about their problems and their priorities. Going back to that pyramid, you can get the information that uncovers a problem, that leads to a solution, that leads to an action step, but underneath that, you got to build the rapport, trust, and credibility. Make them comfortable with opening up, because that's exactly how you're going to get to the point of continuing and directing the conversation. Always anticipate resistance. When you're doing anything like recruiting, selling, there's going to be resistance. Anticipate it. Your goal is to get your prospect talking about the goals and the problems they have. Sell the appointment, not the product. The objections come from really 5 categories. Not interested, no thanks, not really thinking about that right now. Remember, in financial services, financial literacy, things that can provide an alternate route financially speaking, a lot of people, they don't understand money, so they tend to ignore it, so they're not going to be interested. You have to learn how to break through those barriers. Status quo, happy with the way things are right now. A lot of people don't want to open up about money, so they'll put that on as like a barrier. No, everything's going great. Well, Statistical analysis shows that things aren't going great. So you have to be able to get through some of these objections. Bad experience. Talk to someone in your industry. I've tried something similar before, and it was terrible. You have to be able to answer that, because just because somebody else failed them doesn't mean that everybody's going to fail them. And I kind of talk to people like, dating. You don't marry the first person you start dating. And then a lot of times you have to go through people to understand maybe, I'm not sure exactly what I'm looking for, but I know I don't want this. And so if you just quit because of one bad experience, you're never going to find the breakthroughs. You have to help your clients understand that. Bad timing. We've got a lot going on right now. Our budget is spread thin. Well, this is COVID right here. People want to put things off, but in every type of crisis, there's opportunities. There's opportunities for partners. There's opportunities for clients. Our company teaches control. That's what our team's all about. And more info. This is just a cop-out. Send me info, and I'll get back to you. If you guys are in a conversation, and what I've seen through the notes lately is you guys get stuck in a conversation. You say, okay, let me just send you another video. You can have the prospect death by video, meaning if you send out continuous videos because you're not comfortable on the phone controlling that conversation, eventually that person is going to get tired of watching videos and they're just going to drop off. If somebody's asking you questions, those are buying questions. Video's not going to answer at that point. They've seen some overview material. Now they're trying to talk to you. Essentially what you're doing is like a pilot. You're just hitting the eject button. You're parachuting out. Videos are going out all over the place. You've got to stop doing that. That comes from getting outside your comfort zone and explaining to people how you could benefit them. Listen, get in tune with your prospect. Understand their language, what they're telling you. Ask questions to take control of the conversation. Remember, not cramming stuff down people's throat, but controlling the conversation, getting the information by asking questions. Some stats that show you why most people are not doing things correctly. Only 37% of salespeople are consistently effective. The majority of behavior salespeople engage in hinder the likelihood of the sale. So what's happening is they're just getting in their own way. A lot of times success comes from just getting out of your own way and realize that you're the problem. Most salespeople are overtrained on their products and undertrained on sales skills. Remember, it doesn't matter in the beginning what the product is or what the service is. It matters how can you help that person. And bottom-performing reps talk about 70% of the time, while top-performing reps talk less than 50% of the time. Majority of the conversation should be conversation coming from the other side. 88% of buyers surveyed believe that salespeople do not understand their problems enough to be able to help solve them. Put this in the Facebook group yesterday. That is a startling statistic. If the person on the other end doesn't think that you understand them enough to help them and help them solve their problems, you lost them. Close rates decline 71% when the next steps aren't discussed on the first call. Remember, we've been talking about this for months and months and months. If you're not framing the conversation, then you're losing people. You need to tell them exactly what's going to happen on that meeting or appointment or call, what's going to happen on the next one. That way, they're either going to fall in line and do exactly what you say, or they're going to give you a reason why they can't. It's a great time management tool. I'd much rather end a call very early because I framed it and they can't do what I'm asking them to do than to get to the end of the call and lose it at that point. The top 5 to 10% of performers use a more organized, repeatable sales process than their peers. So the people out there that are winging it, they're not successful. People out there that are organized, duplicatable, scripted, they find success and they're able to build teams of successful reps as well. So let's talk about some stuff that we need to make sure that we understand. Stop being like other people. This is important. People don't want to buy from people that get lumped up in a crowd as another salesperson. They want to buy, they want to talk to somebody who's different, distinct, and it seems like an expert that can actually help them. So whatever everyone else is doing, I challenge you to do the exact opposite. Be fresh, be energetic, be passionate about what you do, and understand the way that you approach people and talk to people, show interest in them, is exactly how you separate yourself from the crowd. Be tough on your prospects. Now, there's a fine line between being tough and being rude, but you've got to be tough. Too many of us have a nice personality, and that's great, but nice people finish last. So you've got to be tough on your prospect. As in an industry of sales, we tend to think that whatever a prospect does has to be okay. They're a prospect. We're trying to court them, right? Absolutely not true. You've got to be tough on your prospects who are being difficult. If they're breaking the rules, call them out on that. Remember, you frame the conversation. If they start breaking it, revisit. You don't have to be aggressive or rude, but you can be very matter-of-fact and hold their feet to the fire. Do what you have to do to make sure that the sales or the process, whatever it is that you're doing, stays on track. You rule the conversation. No more tap dancing. And I know you guys get this. Old school selling has always taught us to talk and talk and talk and then pitch and talk some more and to do what we call the tap dance, which is all over the prospect's table or virtual table. Show them how great everything that we have is. This is an old school mindset. It's dead. Get rid of it. Never be in the position where you're tap dancing. If you find that you're just doing all the talking and pitching, you're in a big amount of trouble. Stop doing that. Rewind. Get the client or the potential client or prospect talking about themselves. Have some guts, guys. This is going to separate the winners from the losers. Sometimes what separates the top performers from everyone else is just that the top performers have the guts to go out there and try some stuff. They're willing to do things that puts them out on a limb, outside their comfort zone, feeling a little uncomfortable, but ultimately it leads them to close more sales, recruit more agents. This might require some risk-taking, and top performers might even lose a sale. They might even lose a recruit over having some guts, but ultimately in the end, they close more sales, bring more people in, and produce more revenue and income than the others who are unwilling to go out and do these things. You got to make a call right now. I get in the habit of, what's a good time to call this person? It's right now. So if there's a call to a prospect that's been on your mind that you're putting off, thinking to yourself, you know what? I should call them right now. Just do it. Don't put off calls. Don't think that, hey, I'm going to call these people at dinner time. That's a good time. The best time to call somebody is right then and there. Continuing to put stuff off, plan it, is just a form of procrastination. Make the call now. Don't put it off till tomorrow. What you can do right now in this second. Always make the call. It's all a game. Your standard of living is going to be tied directly to how well you play this game. Selling is a game. Recruiting is a game. Salespeople who take losses personally, if you lose somebody on the client or partner side, you're not going to win in the long run. Just know it's a game. Think of it as a tennis match, football game, soccer match. We used a boxing match earlier on. It could be anything. It's just a game. And when you do something that makes you feel frustrated, just remember, it's a game. The other side's playing their part. You're playing your part. Don't take this too seriously, but learn how to play the game well. Stop talking so much. A lot of you guys, this is the biggest thing holding you back is you just refuse to stop talking. And when you're not asking questions, when you're not allowing the other side to speak, you're not showing interest in them. And that goes back to that statistic of 88% of the people didn't feel like the salesperson knew them well enough to help solve their problems. When you talk about products, when you talk about services, when you talk about yourself, it's off-putting. You need to get better at listening. Record your phone calls. Play it back. See how much you talk versus the other person. Chances are it's a lot more than you really know or think. We want to taper back on our talking and instead engage prospects to do most of the talking themselves. People love to talk about themselves. Just ask them to. First 7 seconds, you got to map it out. This is so big. Most people don't map out the first 7 seconds of their interaction with prospects. As a result, the opening of those calls or meetings, very sloppy. This is especially true for cold calls as well as prospecting calls. You need to map out exactly what you're going to say in the first 7 seconds. Once again, being scripted, being duplicatable, so important. Use a script. There's nothing else here under this as for an explanation. If you're not using a script, if you're doing different things for different types of people, then A, how do you know what's working and what's not? And B, how are you ever going to teach somebody else what you're doing? Have call time. Block it off. It's not a new idea. We've talked about this. Other people in the company have talked about this. Make sure that you block out time specifically for making outbound calls. Almost every person out there, you have to be pretty consistent on your calls in order to be successful. If you call one day, don't call 2 days in a row. That's not consistency, and just don't wing it. Have a specific time, go out there, and when it's that time, be dialed in. Make those calls without fail. Get leverage with automation. We talked about this in the very beginning in terms of making sure people are aware of appointments with reminders, thanking them with a follow-up. All that stuff can be automated. We live in a great time of technology and tools that can greatly help you. You know, cold email prospecting. So if, for example, if you get a prospect, one of the things that I think that you should not have to do is think about what emails to send them. You should have some type of an automated email series so when somebody comes into a prospect, you know they're getting X amount of emails over a certain time period. That takes it off your plate having to do that. You know it's going to be done. Now you're responsible for actually reaching out on the phone and trying to get them. Own your pipeline, good, bad, or ugly. A lot of times we make excuses saying, oh, the economy, COVID, this or that. You have to own your pipeline, guys. And if your pipeline isn't where it should be, you got to own up to it and say it's my job to improve it. It's my job to build it up. It's my job to get out there and prospect. It's your responsibility. So once again, blaming other macro forces while your pipeline's not where it should be, that's just what the masses do. You can always find an excuse, find a solution. Stop making friends. It's remarkable how many of you guys off of a couple of conversations know all about their family history, all about their problems. Remember, really, we're not here to make friends. We're here to make partners. We're here to make people money. Friendships will come out of that, but you can't make friends on the front side. I learned that the hard way in running a business. Being too friendly with the employees, they end up taking advantage of that situation. So your job is to convince the other side and explain to the other side how, depending on where they need to go or where they need to avoid going, how you're going to help them. So they're going to become friends over time, but stop making friends on the front side. Think it over is bad. Now, this is somewhat on the recruiting, and recruiting is not always going to be at the right time. So you can always revisit that. But on the sales side, if you got something that can help their situation, they need it, they can afford it, let's move forward. Don't get in the habit of just letting people say, let me think it over, keep sending them things, because what's going to happen is you've got a big pipeline of stuff that you should have closed. Now you're continuously following up. They've lost everything that came out of that meeting. The urgency of getting it done, each day that passes, that urgency goes further, further, further away. And, you know, a week or 2 weeks later, they might not even remember anything about that meeting. So you've got to make sure that you push more people out and more people in. Sometimes to think it over, if you just, you know, come back and help me understand the process of how you're going to go through this. And when you start making people talk to you about what they're thinking about, you'll get to the point, you know what, I'm just not interested in this. I just don't have any desire to do this or whatever. Great. That's not a think it over. That's a resolve lead. So understand what you're doing, how you're doing it, and what you're trying to do. Always have a clear next step. Everything should have a target and an objective, whether it's a social media post, a text, an email, a call. Every interaction should always end with a clear next step. This means that the last few minutes of any interaction should be spent clarifying what we're going to be doing next. What's going to happen as a result of this call? And remember, always make sure the other side's confirming. That's one way that you understand or that you make sure that they're listening. Ask it back. Hey, is this time going to work for you? Okay, go ahead and write it down. I'm going to send you a text reminder, email reminder, but go ahead and remind or write it down. When you start to have clear next steps and you start to frame conversations, you're going to have a lot of things happen, and it's going to free up your pipeline. Because if you're just chasing people down constantly because you didn't frame the conversation, because you didn't establish clear boundaries and next steps, it's going to be chaotic. Quit procrastinating. All of us, including me, do this. This just doesn't apply to salespeople. It applies to everybody. Oftentimes, those things that are most important that we know that can help us out the most, we put off the most. We procrastinate. You know what? It's killing you. It's killing your business. It's killing your dreams. Identify the most important activities that you need to start doing and do them. Don't put it off. Do it right now. And understand that if somebody's doing things well, shop around. See what they're doing. See what their marketing looks like. See what their pipeline looks like. Get on the phone with them as a potential prospect. See how they control a conversation. Learn from people that are doing it well. Get introductions. The word referral is a weird word to me. I know that when LinkedIn first started, nowadays you can connect with whoever you want. But in the early days of LinkedIn, it was really about, hey, I don't know this person. Can you give me an introduction to this person in your network? It works really well outside of the social media world when you're asking for introductions. And so that's a good thing. Once again, it's involving the client or the prospect. It's allowing them to make the introduction, and it's not a cold conversation. Even if it's a referral and you're dialing them up, still a cold call. So understand that if you can get that connection, that introduction from another person, becomes a warm phone call. And outsource the non-sales stuff. Me and David had a guy in the Philippines that was working for us for a little while, $5 an hour, I think it was. If you don't have a lot of money coming into your business, obviously what you want to do is limit your expenses. But as you make money, pay for yourself, the time you invest into this business, start a marketing budget, and get some of this stuff automated. If you don't need to do it, if it's not pressing to recruiting or selling, if it's admin work, have somebody else do it. And be systematic. You know, top performing people are always systematic. And I promise you 100% of those people are. They're following a very clear process. When in front of a person or a prospect, they know what questions they're going to ask. They know exactly what's going to happen and when. Be systematic. Find a system that works for you. Follow it and then teach it. And then know why you do this. We talk about no one wants to make calls. That's how you're going to build your business. But why are you doing this? You know, the 12-week here we talk about, you know, you've got to have a vision that moves you. You've got to have a vision that you can see yourself accomplishing that vision some point in the future, not only there seeing it, but feeling it with emotion. So why are you doing what you do? That's going to take you through the daily activities, take you through the day-to-day build out of this business, because you know exactly why you're picking up the phone. You know exactly why you're sending the email or text. We haven't used this for about 16, 18 months. And since that time, obviously, a lot's happened with the world. I call it a great migration of people and money on the move right now. So we're going to kind of go back. And I have to send a shout out to David Chase. He's always helping with marketing. He's always helping with vendors. He's always trying to find stuff for us. So David and I got back on this. We just started today. But it's an excellent place. So if you've got a pipeline that's very small and you're wondering how to talk to people, hop on a resume bank, call people, get scripted in your approach, build a pipeline. And once again, if you don't want to talk to W-2 employees, you don't want to talk to people looking for jobs, that's great. That's exactly what we want you to do, not waste your time. 100% commission-based salary, people that you want to talk to. And guys, none of this is going to happen overnight. You're not going to be an expert on the phone. You're not going to be an expert social media marketer. You're not going to be an expert email marketer. You're not going to be an expert salesperson overnight. It's going to take some time. So you need to work on yourself, get out of your own way, fix whatever personality defects that you have, quit self-sabotaging your future that you can have, and go out there and make enough calls, talk to enough people, and get into a position where you're talking to people that intimidate you. If you bring in people that are more skilled than you, it's a very good sign that your business is going to have an explosive growth rate. So if you guys need any help with your business, let us know. We're always willing to help you guys, but the first thing that we're going to ask you is, what have you been doing? Because the only way that we can help is making sure that you have activity. If the lack of activity is the reason you're not having results, there's not much we can do for you.
Thank you so much, Mike. That was a really powerful presentation with a lot of great information. I know you always work really hard on everything that you put together. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and then we'll open up the floor for questions, comments, anything that we can help with. Thanks.